Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Pradajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Pradajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Paramahamsa, Paravajakacharya, Ashtottara Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila HG Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Paravajakacharya, Ashtottara Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Narayam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in the best of songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this third day of April, 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are studying Canto 6, Prescribed Duties for Mankind. Chapter 9, The Appearance of the Demon Vritrasura. Text number 34. But before we do text number 34, I'd like to chant the Sanskrit for text number 33. These are all prose, that's why you don't see the verse. It's extraordinarily beautiful, and somehow we missed it yesterday. Om Namaste Stu Bhagavan Narayanam Vasudevadi Purusha Mahapurusha Mahanubhava Padama Mangala Padama Kalyana Padama Karunika Kevala Jagadadhara Lokaika Nata Sarveshwara Lakshmi Nata Padama Hansa Parivrajakaye Padamenatma Yoga Samadhina Paribhavata Padisputa Padama Hansa Dharme Nordghata Tatama Kapata Dvare Chitte Pavata Atmaloke Swayam Upalabdha Nija Sukhanu Bhavo Bhavan. I'll read the translation real quick. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Narayan, O Vasudeva, original person, O most exalted person, supreme experience, welfare personified. These are the demigods glorifying the Lord. O Supreme Benediction, supremely merciful and changeless, O support of the cosmic manifestations, sole proprietor of all planetary systems, master of everything, and husband of the goddess of fortune. Your Lordship is realized by the topmost sannyasis who wander about the world to preach Krishna consciousness, fully absorbed in samadhi through bhakti yoga. Because their minds are concentrated upon you, they can receive the conception of your personality in their fully purified hearts. When the darkness in their hearts is completely eradicated and you are revealed to them, the transcendental bliss they enjoy is the transcendental form of your Lordship. No one but such persons can realize you. Therefore, we simply offer you our respectful obeisances. And now today's verse, text 34. Duravaboda ivatavayam bihari yogo yadasharano sharira idam anavikshitasmat samavaya atmanai vavikriyamanena sagunamaguna trijasi pasi hadasi. All right, English. O Lord, you need no support, and although you have no material body, you do not need cooperation from us. Since you are the cause of the cosmic manifestation, and you supply its material ingredients without being transformed, you create, maintain, and annihilate this cosmic manifestation by yourself. Nevertheless, although you appear engaged in material activity, you are transcendental to all material qualities. Consequently, these transcendental activities of yours are extremely difficult to understand. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The Brahma Samhita 537 says, Goloka Vṛndāvana Chakilatma Bhutaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is always situated in Goloka Vṛndāvana. It is also said, Vrindavanam Patichadya Padam Ekang Nagacchati. Krishna never goes even a step from Vrindavan. Nevertheless, although Krishna is situated in his own abode, Goloka Vṛndāvana, he is simultaneously all-pervading and is therefore present everywhere. This is very difficult for a conditioned soul to understand. But devotees can understand how Krishna, without undergoing any changes, can simultaneously be in his abode and be all-pervasive. The demigods are understood to be various limbs of the Supreme Lord's body. Although the Supreme Lord has no material body and does not need anyone's help, he is spread everywhere, mayatatamidam sarvam jagadabhyaktamurtina.
Nevertheless, he is not present everywhere in his spiritual form. According to the Mayavad philosophy, the Supreme Truth, being all-pervasive, does not need a transcendental form. The Mayavadis suppose that since his form is distributed everywhere, he has no form. This is untrue. The Lord keeps his transcendental form, and at the same time he extends everywhere, in every nook and corner of the material creation. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So the demigods are now faced with Vritrasura, who's a very formidable demon. In fact, his name means basically he who can cover everything, swallow the universe. So they're now they've approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Before they approached Brahma, and they were able to get the Narayana Kavacha. They got the advice to go approach Vishwarup, and he became their priest. Not exactly their guru who they surrendered to, but the priest who was very expert at chanting mantras. And because they're looking for protection from the demons, they've offended Brahaspati, Indra has, and now they're weakened. And the demons have very nicely worshipped their spiritual master, Shukracharya, so they're very powerful. So they're in trouble now. So they got help from Vishwarup. He gave them the Narayana Kavacha, for the defense. And but Indra flew off the handle again when he saw that Vishwarup was offering some of his sacrifice to the demons, because his mother was, I think, in that line. Anyway, so now they've compounded the offense, and they're really worried because the father of Vishwarup is Trashta, and he was naturally very upset. Here he advised his son to help the demigods, and now they cut off his heads. So in his upset condition, he chanted these mantras in order to get an enemy of Indra who would kill him. But he chanted something backward. And instead of getting an enemy of Indra who would kill Indra, he got someone whom Indra regarded as an enemy and who would be killed by Indra. So that's what's going to happen. But the demigods don't know that, and so they're looking for more help. And so this time Narayan will advise him to go to Dadyansha, also known as Dadichi, beg him for his body. He's so advanced that he's detached for that, although he kind of jokes with them and says, "What, are you kidding? I can't." But then he gives him the body. And they proceed to, as under instruction, make a very powerful thunderbolt for Indra out of his bones, invincible thunderbolt. And then we'll see the battle between Vritrasura and Indra, which culminates in Vritrasura, which is what he wanted, getting killed by Indra and offering these wonderful prayers where he reveals that he's actually Chitraketu inside, and that comes up later. So what's going on right now is that the demigods are offering their glorification of Narayan, and they're a little confused, as we'll find out in the next verse, because they don't understand, are you also affected by material activities? These are our inquiries, and I'm not going to read the next verse. But what I'm getting from this is, again, this theme that they're not approaching the Lord, their mission is not to get pure devotional service. It's a material motive. And that infects everything. That infects everything. They're understanding the basic principle of Bhagavad Gita, that the Lord does everything, but he's never affected by whatever he does. I mean, that's in Bhagavad Gita. I forget the exact verse. He has so many activities, but he has no duties. Prabhupada would always say, he has nothing to do. Right? That verse, Tasyakayam karanam chavidyate. That verse starts like that, and he has so many shaktis. And probably he has nothing to do. What Prabhupada means by that, it doesn't have to do anything. It's a little trick of the English language. But he has, I don't have anything to do means, I'm bored, what am I going to do? You know, I have nothing to do. But that's not, Krishna has so many things he does in the spiritual world, out of the desire to interact with his devotees and enjoy rasa, right? He has lots to do, but he doesn't have to do anything. See the difference? So, but the demigods do. They have to defend their kingdom. You know, they have to offer benedictions when people worship them. They have to worry about getting kicked out of the kingdom, the heavenly kingdom, when the time is up or when the demons come. So they have so many things they have to do. So this is a contrast, because the Bhagavatam, at the very beginning, it kicks out all cheating religion, right? In the second verse, Dharma projit kaita votra. Here in this Bhagavatam, we've kicked out all kaitava dharma. So what is that kaitava dharma? It's dharma that's basically cheating. In other words, it's false dharma. It's dharma with its activities. You may be worshiping this god, that god, whoever, for material motivation. The whole very second chapter, what is real dharma? Savai pang sang paro dharma yato bhakta dhokshide ahaitukya pratayataya masupasidati. To become really satisfied by practicing your dharma, you can't just be worshipping the gods in order to go to heaven, all the karma kanda. You know, that will come up in a few chapters later, in chapter 5, where Vyasadeva was dissatisfied. He'd written all the Vedas, he'd written the Mahabharata, even he'd written all the other Puranas, but something was missing. And what was missing was the Bhagavatam, wholly and solely dedicated to pure devotional service. Means, and I love this line, this is from one of Jiva Goswami's Sandarbhas, Bhajaniya Padma Purusha Sukha Matra Swasukatvam. It's like a little condensation of Manyabhilasha Dashunyam. And that is that pure devotion means that to take one's happiness only and solely in the happiness of the supremely worshipable Supreme Person. Bhajaniya Padma Purusha. That's it. To learn, first of all, one has to learn what does Krishna want. You know, for that we need his intercessor. We need the guru. We need the sadhus to reveal to us. And then generally you have to practice sadhana bhakti and come to that point and expunge all of the material desires we've been accumulating since time immemorial. That's conditioned us. And to purify those desires, so eventually there's only that one desire to please Krishna in a variety of ways, you know, according to instruction. Then one is completely satisfied. Even you may be in the most poverty-stricken condition, you know. And you have least of anything. In fact, it's an advantage to do that. The Goswamis voluntarily gave up everything, right? Three of them were extremely wealthy and influential, and they just renounced the whole thing. And they became wandering mendicants in Vrindavan, you know. Gave it up as insignificant. Billions of dollars, you know, whatever you can imagine, the influence, position, whatever. It's not worth anything. Broken glass. And they went to Vrindavan under Lord Chaitanya's orders, and they excavated the places of pastimes, they wrote the books, and they preached, you know, personally to whoever was there. And they were, you know, what does it say? Gopi Baba the Sarmatab the Lali Kalola Magdomahur. Again and again they were drowning and, you know, diving into the ocean of the highest bliss in worshiping Krishna in the mood of the gopis, you know. So we're witnessing here that wonderful verse that I, you know, recited that we missed yesterday. There's so much in there. Parama Karunai, you know, you're supremely merciful, and you're the Lord of the Paramahamsas, and so many wonderful points. But they're not getting the essential point, because after all, they're residents of the heavenly planets. They're hooked in there. They're attached. They're attached, and therefore they're puzzled by, you know, Krishna's position And that will come up in the next verse. You'll see they have, these are our inquiries. Are you also conditioned when you perform this activity? You know. So no, the point is that everything about Krishna, it's beyond, it's transcendental. It's beyond our comprehension. Apanipado Javanagahita. He has no feet, but he runs faster than anyone. He has no hands, but he accepts all these offerings. He doesn't have any eyes, but he sees everything. It's almost like one of these koans, you know. Well, that's completely contradictory. He doesn't have material eyes, material hands, material, you know. And therefore, also, he's in Goloka Vṛndāvana, but he's in the hearts of all. Well, where is he? He's both. It's inconceivable. The old frog in the well mentality, this is a universal disease. Everyone sees the world according to their personal conception. You know, the frog is in the well, and the Professor Frog, I went to the slideshow with this. There's a wonderful illustration that was done for the BTG of this big Professor Frog in the well. And especially athletic frog gets out of the well, and he comes back and he's got, you know, running shoes on. And the well is quite close to the Atlantic Ocean. And so he gets out, he goes on the beach, and there's this body of water that's inconceivably large, you know. So he runs back to the well, hops back to the well, jumps in and you know, catches his breath, and then he's reporting. He's reconnoitering, he's reporting what he saw to the Professor Frog. So I saw a body of water that's just huge, huge. So the professor, he's only been in the well. So he's thinking, huge, huge, oh my God, you know, we're in this 4-foot well. Was it 10 foot wide? I mean, that's big. He said, no, you don't understand, it's much bigger. Oh, 20 foot, you know, like that. In other words, it's beyond his comprehension. And, you know, he keeps puffing himself up and eventually he explodes. But the principle and point is very important, because naturally we're going to see things from our point of view that we have. Intellectually, the state of our senses. Like children, you may, if you recall, you know, you see everything differently. First of all, there's all of this tall timber walking around, you know, these adults. Your life is more or less, you know, at the knee level at first, you know. So what do you know, you know? I mean, basically, you know, my parents, my mother, you know, is a source of safety and nourishment and so forth, you know, when you're really young. That's what you know, you know. But you gradually, your horizons widen, you know, and you get to have a normal view of life according to your particular time and place and all the language you learn. In other words, it's individual, but it's completely conditioned. That's what it means when we learn in that same verse, adhokshaja. You have to, the real dharma is to have unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service to the transcendent Lord, beyond the range of the senses and mind. Well, what can we know beyond the range of the senses and mind? Nothing, unless we get knowledge from some source that's transcendental, a paurusheya. And that first principle of knowledge is important to understand, so we open ourselves up to what would ordinarily be inconceivable, and we would dismiss it as, oh, that's just a dream, that's just a concoction, you know. And a lot of the world is operating on that, because the Western religions have kind of broken down. You know, there's such a treasure of articles in BTG, Back to God, maybe we're not exposed to. Yesterday, Rabindranath Swarup wrote in his Vyasa Puja offering. They're still writing me because the notification process isn't set yet, so they're sending it to me because they've done it for many years. And I was reminded of my time with him in the early 80s in Philadelphia. I spent some time, and he was writing these incredible articles at that time, and also before and after I left there. And he was talking about his journey to become a devotee. He was a professor, you know, studying philosophy, and eventually got a PhD in philosophy. But he was raised as a Baptist, you know, and he described how as a child, they pump into you that you're all very, very sinful and you're all going to hell unless you accept Jesus, right, as your Savior. And here's these little kids getting scared and frightened, about going to hell. And so the whole principle of the religion is fear, based on fear. Please forgive me. And Jesus, He died for our sins. Okay, I'll accept Jesus. But what is the basis of bhakti yoga? Love. It's not, that if you fear when you decided not to love Krishna anymore, and you're competing with him, then the Nrsingadev would come and you can become very fearful, or just the material energy, can get. But the basis of real devotional service is developing or reawakening our natural love for Krishna, and that requires that you take all these material desires and you purify them by engaging the senses, mind, intelligence, everything in Krishna, the process of purification. But the demigods are not interested in that right now. They're interested in preserving their position in the heavenly planets, and so they'll be able to do that. But this is part of what I think is the Bhagavatam's lesson in contrasting what do we say, ordinary religion, karmakanda, materially motivated religion, which Krishna says is a good first step if it brings him to me, right? Chaturvadapajantamajana. The artartis. The artarti means one whose goal is money, is wealth. Prabhupada defined, and this is one way, those in need of money. But there's also the artas, those who are in trouble, those who are in great distress. And one of the artarti definition is someone like Dhruva. Can't say Dhruva needed money. He wanted the kingdom, his aspiration, right? For practicing yoga and whatever, worshiping God. He was just a young boy. His mother said, only God can help you, or I'm going to find God. So that's the artarti. He wanted a kingdom greater than his great-grandfather's Brahma, It's almost presented as a childish desire. But his determination, Narada, he used that. So, okay, you practice like this. And he gave him an very austere practice. You read this. But it was fraught with bhakti. Chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, worshiping the Lord in the heart, doing rudimentary deity worship. It was all, and so eventually Narayan comes, and then what happens? All his material desire has been sublimated just by seeing Vishnu. Svaman Kratatosmi Vinangniyache. I don't want anything. But I think, as I pointed out, maybe that was a question, his prayer, what he did want, that's what he doesn't want. He doesn't want anything beyond it. What does he want? Just like Prahlad. At the end of Prahlad's prayers, Nrsingadev offers him anything you want. I'll offer you a planet, whatever, he's giving. And so Prahlad complained. Says, I'm born into a demon's family. I'm not some kind of vanak. It means a merchant. I'm doing service with you. Please don't tempt me, my Lord. It's like he's complaining. But if you want to offer me a benediction, then here's my benediction. I forget the Sanskrit right now. But please let material desires never take root in my heart. He uses that word, of roha, Let me have no material desires. And, now that I think of it, please deliver my father. So of course Nrsingadev, he granted those. So that's the real prayer. Whereas the demigods are saying, please reinstate our kingdom and get rid of our enemies. You see the difference. So that's it's a lesson for us, and it really gets ghastly. I mean, it's ghastly enough that Indra has beheaded Vishwarup, three-headed, and 3 times, 3 heads. And now they get the benediction from Narayan. You go beg the Diksha for his body and create from his bones. I mean, bones are like contaminated, right? I mean, anyway, a very powerful thunderbolt. And then you'll be able to defeat Vitrasura. Oh, thank you, my Lord, thank you. You see the difference? Whereas devotee, what do we pray for? I mean, when you go through the writings of the Goswamis or the Bhagavatam, what was Dhruva's actual prayer? What is he looking for? Bhakti muhu pavahatam traime pasango bhuyad ananda mahatam amalashayanam yenanja sobanam aruvasanam bhavabdim yenanja sobanam neshe babad gunakatam tapana. Let me have the association of your pure devotees, in whose hearts the river of pure bhakti is powerfully flowing. Bhakti pravahatam tvahime prasanga. And not just a superficial sangha, that'll let me meet them once. Prasanga, tatam prasanga mamaveyiva. Means meaningful association, hearing, surrendering, serving. Let me have that as kind of association. Why? Because in their association, I'll be able to hear the nectarian flow of your glories, which is always, and by that, in that way, I'll easily cross beyond this ocean of birth and death, which is, I'll never forget this phrase, which is full of blazing, fire-like dangers. Now that's the devotee's prayer. I'm thinking of Kunti's prayers. What did she pray for? She prayed, first of all, she asked Krishna to stay. So now you're going? Let those dangers come again and again. And, what are the dangers? Out in the forest, threatened by, burning house down. It's horrible. Let them come again, because by those dangers, we always prayed intensely to you, and you came and saved us. We got your darshan. Now we won the war, everything's fine, and you're going away? Yeah, I heard Prabhupada on tape. And you're leaving now? No, that's no good. So she's praying like that. But she knows that's not going to happen. So then she gives her final prayer, 2 prayers. And this is the first one, I forget, Imam Chindi. Let my attachments to my family, which includes the Pandavas, the glorious Pandavas, and let that be cut. And then Tvaime Ananya Vishaya, no other, Ananya Vishaya Matir Madhupate Asakrit Ratamud Vahatara Dha Gange Vaugamatanvati. O Maru's Lord, please ever fill my mind with thoughts of Thee, not any other kind. As Ganges torrent flows into the sea, let all my love flow constantly to Thee. That's the prayer of the pure devotee, nothing material. So Lord Chaitanya, of course, showed us the same thing with his Nadanang Najanang Nasundari. So what to pray for, that came up. Why are prayers important? Just by repeating, picking prayers from the Bhagavatam, like these prayers, and repeating them, that affects the mind. You also can get into that mood. This is how you develop your personality. You're exposed to inputs on the material side, and you become like that. This is the principle of Sangha. So when you're chanting the prayers of Queen Kunti or Prahlad, or how about Bhishma Dev? This is a dramatic scene. He's lying on his bed of arrows. Means he's shot through with the arrows, but he's not expiring because he had the benediction. He could leave whenever he wanted. So he's lying on his bed of arrows. Krishna comes. Arjuna is there. Yudhishthira is there. The great saints and sages from around the universe. They come. He's a Mahajan. So what's he going to say? Well, first of all, he spends a lot of time advising Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira was disconsolate. He's a Vaishnav. And now, because he wanted the kingdom, now you have thousands and millions of men killed, and the animals, all of those horses, all of those elephants. It's a disastrous scene. He's crestfallen. He's not. In other words, he can't run the kingdom now. He's paralyzed with this grief. So he comes, and Bhishma preaches to him, and then he gives him instruction, and that's important. Krishna was there, but he didn't say anything. He wanted Yudhishthira to do it. So now the final time has come. So then he turns his face toward Krishna. Krishna is coming. He can look at his beautiful face. Tribhavanakamanam. He's chanting these verses. Tribhavanakamanam tamalabanam. Rabakata goda varambadang dadani. And Vapadalaka Goloka Vṛndāvana Vijayasake Ratadastume Navanja. So he's describing Tribhavanakamanam, the most beautiful in all 3 worlds. Tamalavarnam, beautiful blackish complexion like a tamal tree. Ravikata Goda, Ravi is the sun. His garments are glittering like the sun, golden. Ravikata Goda Varambalang Dadane Vapa Alaka Kulavatana Namjam, beautiful lotus face is encircled by these beautiful locks of hair. Abje Ravikata Gauda Varammadang Dadane Vapat Alaka Kunavatabhadanjam Vidiyasake Vijayasake Ratadastume. He's the friend of the Vijay. Vijay means the victor. He's the friend of Arjuna. Vijayasake. Let my attraction be joined to him, let my love be joined to him without being diverted to anyone else. He's praying for the same thing that Kunti is praying for, that Rupa Goswami is praying, they're all praying. Let my love be just flow to you and not be diverted. Let my attraction be to you. And when we're chanting Hare Krishna, we should be, feeling the same way. Please please engage me in your service constantly without any interruption. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So this prayerfulness is, basically our whole life is meant to be like a prayer. Whatever we do should be done with this attitude. Please, I'm so contaminated and so inadequate, but please accept this service and purify my heart so that one day, I'll have no other desire but to serve you. That's a long way from, please reinstate my position in the heavenly planets. Okay, or people go to church. I was reading one of the articles Rabindra wrote. I remember this because I was there in Philadelphia. The book, you probably heard this, where I think it was something like, why do bad things happen to good people? This is called the problem of evil. It's a whole area of theology in Western theodicy. And here's the conundrum. If you don't know and you don't accept the eternality of the soul, meaning and the law of karma and all these things, and you think, well, this person is so good. Basically, children, they're so innocent, right? But sometimes bad things happen. His name was it Howard? I forget his name. Kushner. Harry Kushner was quite remarkable. Kushner, but not Krishna. So he's a Jewish rabbi, and he would minister to the congregation, So they would sometimes have horrible things happen to them, and what kicked it off is his own son. There's a disease called progeria. You know what that is? It means that you get old really fast. So his son had that. It's some kind of neurological thing. And he watched his son. You have it too? Yeah.
He keeps saying I'm really old.
But he watched his son, get wrinkly and all. He's like 11 years old, and he's got wrinkles, and his body's he died of old age at like 12. So that horrible. But I'm the rabbi, he's sinless boy. So you can't figure it out because they don't have the thing with transmigration. He's just an innocent boy. Why would God do that? Why would God let that happen? And this is a major problem in Western because they can't answer it. So, in other words, it's simply stated: if God is all powerful and all merciful, why would He let innocent people suffer so much? Right? And the answer is very simple. There's no innocent people. Someone may look innocent, but they're carrying a whole load of karma that just happens to come due at a certain age, maybe young age, and you're thinking you're innocent. And so when your relationship with God is the order supplier, and you're praying and you're doing everything right, you're observing Yom Kippur or Easter, whatever, Easter's coming up, and you're doing, and still bad things happen, then it takes an axe to your faith. The one guy, he was a manual laborer, and his son got killed somehow, and he completely lost his faith. He couldn't go to church at all. He became a total atheist. What kind of God is this? I've been observant, So you can see how it's a major problem. And that's why the very first lesson Krishna gives, the soul is eternal, najayate mete vakadashan. And along with that comes the law of karma. You cannot see, you don't know, a person looks completely innocent, but then at a certain time, then karma comes due. Horrible things happen. So, Rabindra Swarup wrote a beautiful article. He's a very good writer, and he's a philosopher. He's a PhD now, So I was reading that, and then there was one that I don't remember how there was the little dolls they would make, little miniature Jagannath deities. They were bought in San Francisco. That was the origin of the first deities. Malati stole one, as a hippie idea, from the store. And she has a Prabhupada, what's this? And Prabhupada bowed down. I think it was the Jagannath. And the devotees were shocked. What is this? This is God. This is Jagannath. Are there others? Yes, there are others. She went. I hope she bought the others. Anyway, so they ended up with those three, and he had Shyamasundar make the big deities with that as the model. He was a good carver. So Rabindranath Sarup bought this little. He bought Balaram, and he was attracted to it. There was some mystical thing. It was from India, so he put it up on his altar, and. I forget all the details, but he learned that Balaram is the original guru, and that he saw that as helping him, it surrendered, and he became. This is 1970. So this principle, this central principle, is being spoken of in the Bhagavatam again and again from different points of view, and that is that we should aspire to regain our original nature. Is that we're carrying with us a whole load of conditioning from previous lifetimes. And the process of Krishna consciousness is very, very powerful purification. The more we take to it sincerely, the quicker and more deeply we'll feel ourselves being transformed. And of course, the central practice is the chanting of the holy name. I mean, what does it mean? Just think that, to chant the name Krishna once, offenselessly, and you eliminate all the karma, more sinful reactions than you can commit. Just see the power of that. Isn't it worthwhile trying to do that? I mean, why once? Let's chant 16 rounds a day. So this is the foundation, this idea of simply regaining our original position in the spiritual world, which is one of being completely blissful, ever-expanding ocean of bliss, by serving Krishna's desires, by participating in his happiness. And he's very happy to engage us in that. That's what this whole temple is about. If you come and you clean the floor, I remember when this is a long time ago. I joined recently, and in Brooklyn, we had quite a few devotees, and there was this kind of a small house. It was big enough to house us, but it wasn't like a big temple like this. And but there were so many devotees that every Sunday, I think it was every Sunday morning, we did a Maha cleanup, and everyone had their little corner and their little assignment. So my assignment that week or something was to mop the floor of the temple room, and that means get on your hands and knees, and with a cloth like this. So there I was, maybe 2 months in the movement, 2 months in the temple, and I'm hearing Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya Radha. This is another part of the Govindam, I think, tapes, and that's playing, and there's Radha Govinda. The curtains are open. Radha Govinda are there, and Gaurandhaya and Jagannath. And I'm on the floor on my hands and knees and just chanting, trying to follow the song. And yeah, this is perfection. I mean, I'm not perfect, but it's a perfect situation. I really felt that this is, what I really want to do. And you could feel the blessings of the Lord, in the whole process. But that's why Krishna consciousness is, so it's so powerful that if you just take it a little seriously and practice it, you feel the effect. You feel the effect coming, and you're assured, yes, and it can keep getting better and better if you keep following. So that's by contrast. These demigods are, entangled in their position, and you can imagine having a heavenly planet that you're ruling or that you're enjoying. It's much more intoxicating than living here. Here, you have a lot of impetus to get out, but there they have a lot of impetus to stay, and so their whole motive in approaching the Lord and so forth is fraught with that. And we'll see. I remember distinctly what happens with Indra. Of course, we already talked about how that final battle with Vitrasura is so dramatic. You'll see, and And Vritrasura's motive is to be killed, not to kill Indra, but he has to, put on the fight. And Indra eventually is killing him, and his neck was so thick. I mean, the dimensions of this demon are, that it took Indra a year to cut through in order to finally. Meanwhile, he's chanting these prayers, which are when may I again be the servant of your servants, like that. This is the prayer of the so-called demon. So it's Chitraketu getting liberated and going back to Godhead. So it's quite dramatic, and I remember when I first read it, I said this would make a great movie. Chitraketu, you'll see it's a backstory. Who is this Chitraketu? Oh, Chitraketu, and he also was, materially entangled. He had I don't know how many millions of wives, but no one could get pregnant, and finally he got the blessings of one. I forget who it was. Narada came. Parvati. Yeah, they came back, and when the kid had died, but he got a blessing as one of these he'd give her this milk and she'll become pregnant. So his main wife became pregnant, and he was overjoyed, but he ignored all the other wives. They became angry and killed the son. I mean, it's just. So he, there's a scene of him beating his head against the wall as he's walking through the palace. Oh my God, So Narada comes and brings the boy back, and he preaches to him, whose father am I? I've had so many fathers, And so I think it's Narada then who instructs him to renounce and start his prayers. And he gets darshan in a week or something, and he becomes a great devotee. But then he gets anyway, there's a whole story, and he insults Shiva, and Parvati curses him, and he accepts the curse, and he becomes Vritrasura and goes back to Godhead. Meanwhile, Indra is doing something a little different, and he eventually kills him, and then he gets, oh my God, there's another Brahmin I've killed now. I've killed Vritrasura, was the son of Tvashtata. So he had more sin-free actions. This time he couldn't offload him. He had to, hide in a lake for how many thousands of years. So who came out ahead? Chitraketu was Vritrasura. He went back to Godhead, and Indra had to regret. What have I done? That's his mood. So anyway, there's a lot of lessons here, and it's approaching Krishna with the desire. Even if we don't have the pure desire, take one of these prayers. Take Kunti's prayers and just utter them before the Lord in as much sincerity as you can. By hearing and chanting these wonderful vibrations, then that purifies the heart. You get into you enter into the mood that she's in. I mean, we can pray for that. That please give me pure love for you. Let my thoughts, Rupa Goswami is so creative. This is about Krishna as the calf herd. He said, my dear Lord, the river of nectar describing your glories is flowing throughout the Bhagavatam and other Puranas. And yet the calf of my mind has wandered from that nectarian river and has gone into a ditch to drink the poisonous swill of sense gratification. Vishya Visha, the poison of Vishya Visha. Please take your stick of mercy, O calf herd, Krishna, and bring the calf of my mind back to that river of your nectar. Yeah, that's the prayers we should have. All right, I'll stop there. Anyone have any questions, comments? Dharma Setu Babu. Where's the mic? Give. Here.
About praying. Now, prayers that are transcendental, we can understand that. And Krishna is very much attracted to the devotees offering those prayers. My question is prayers within the modes of material nature, like the demigods here. And the question is, we're offering prayers, and you have two things, the offering of prayers, but we also have our own karma. Yeah. So how much does prayer actually change karma? People are told to pray to God for this and pray to God for that, and God will, He answered my prayers, and this happened and that happened. But what's actually going on? Is Krishna moved to change a person's karma just because of prayer?
That's a good question, and I think there's, judging from that verse in the Gita, which is so instructive, Chaturvadabhajante Mamjana Sukhanojana, these are people within the pious group because they're coming to me, and when I read that, I always thought of, okay, Krishna says coming to me. He's not meaning coming to God in general. I think if they come to the temple and pray like that, or like Dhruva, he went in and he was very ardently praying for the kingdom and to Vasudeva, Vasudevaya. So, if you're genuinely, focused on Krishna by that ardent desire, then he's going to fulfill it in such a way that's going to help you progress, out of the material thing. Because he's not. If you really want to, just get the material thing, go to Shiva. He'll fulfill that desire. But Krishna says, there's one prayer, it says, you can come and pray to Krishna and he'll certainly fulfill it. But he's not going to give you something that's going to have you come back again and again and again on the material side. He'll give it to you in such a way that you'll see the futility of it. And then he says to Yudhishthir, because this comes up again, why the Pandavas suffer so much, and they robbed of their kingdom and everything. And you're the husband of the goddess of fortune, and Shiva lives outside, lives under a tree, and his devotees are always very wealthy. It seems like a paradox. So Krishna says, Tasyaham managunnami harishe taddanang shanai. To those I show my real mercy, I gradually take away all their wealth. And then I memorize it, but it's not there. And their family members give up this poor wretch now because he can't help them, and so they have to take full shelter of me. So Krishna has a plan, and if we're really sincerely praying, that to give a benediction in such a way that you become detached. I mean, my little sojourn or journey to come to Krishna consciousness, I was chanting Hare Krishna, I was doing yoga, I was working I had a job, I had a car and an apartment. But I was getting involved in the Hare Krishnas, because I was practicing yoga and I was reading the philosophy. So at one point, I prayed to my picture of the super soul on the wall that I had in my apartment. Please, can you move me to the next step? I'm kind of stuck here. I didn't know exactly what you did. So that day or the next, there was a little clipping on the bulletin board in the office where I was working in the hospital, and it was for a job at another hospital, which would be a night shift. And I said, well, this is he answered my prayer. Because now I can work at night, take a few hours rest, and then day I can drive into the city and do more yoga, and I can do more what I'm doing. I wasn't thinking I'm going to join the temple. So I quit my job. I had a good reference because I'd been a good worker there for a year, and so and then for the first week I trained up for this other job. It was a much smaller hospital, and the night shift, all the patients are asleep. There's not much to do, So finally, the second week I'm on my own. You are the night shifts inhalation therapist, So I go out and make the rounds to see everyone is breathing still, okay. But I was very sensitive at that point. I've been chanting a lot, and I've been doing pranayama, and I've been eating raw food, So I definitely got the sense there's a lot of ghosts in this this hospital. Because a lot of people die in there, And so it was spooky, and I hadn't much to do, and I said, I can't do this at this point, So I quit the job. And I started going more to the temple, and afterwards I said, well, now, I might as well just join. So it was kind of a trick, And then I said, oh, okay, this is how Krishna answered my prayers. He took away my props, And once I gave my life savings, which was $1,700, in 73 you can multiply it by about 6, and that's what, And Kirtiraj became my best friend. He said, oh, Bhakti Tom, nice to see you, when he learned. Anyway, it was, I really, it was good, because then I got into chanting, and I I didn't, it worked. So that's my little story. But it happens again and again. Krishna takes away the props. I mean, Prabhupada identified with that. He had his business. He said he was horrified that he should take sannyas, but the business failed. So this was the kindness. My spiritual master, really showed me so much kindness by forcing me to take sannyas. So that, it's a complicated thing. But Krishna uses the fact that you're interested in approaching him and paying attention, and he gives you a benediction that may seem to be what you're looking for, but in a way he's figured out how he can have you surrender more, selflessly. Because the whole thing is all these complex material desires that we've built up, that you're hanging on to those. That's your identity, and it often takes a lot, lifetimes, to give that up and just surrender.
But my question is, can prayer change karma? People swear that it does, but the power of prayer, and they all prayed, and this person threw their crutches away,
the same way that chanting the holy name can change karma.
So it can.
Yeah, depending on the sincerity and what you're asking for, it can very well change karma, because Krishna is in charge of that. So, in fact, Hare Krishna is a prayer. I mean, we're meant to chant prayerfully. Oh Lord, please engage me. Oh Radha, oh Krishna, please engage me in your service. So that's a perfect example. So we should. The prayer is central, because we're meant to chant Hare Krishna prayerfully. Otherwise it becomes just I started out just meditating on the name. I wasn't praying or anything. I'm meditating on her, but that in alone, because it's Krishna himself is attractive. But still, when you're doing, the more you're doing it this mindfully, with full consciousness, what the meaning is, and at the same time concentrating on the sound, it gets a quicker result. All right, we better adjourn. It's getting late. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.